my memory is so bad sometimes. I feel like that's probably the ADHD trait that bothers me the most, I would say, is how bad my memory is. My short-term memory.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, it's frustrating. Hmm.
It really can
Yeah.
be. Especially
Yeah.
because,
Well,
like, in life, there's so many times that we're expected to remember things. Like,
Yes, like
you know,
birthdays.
birthdays, phone numbers. Well, before cell phones, I guess we mostly
Yeah.
remembered it then. But now everybody forgets your phone number, so I feel better.
Yep.
But, birthdays and somebody's favorite color and, that thing your 10-year-old said 5 minutes ago and now they're pissed that you forgot. And like,
Yes. Mommy, where's my smoothie? Yes. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that happened today. It happens every day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
see, I have a rule with my kids. I have a rule. And my husband hasn't quite caught on to this yet, even though he knows my rule. But like, the rule is, if I'm not lock-eyed with you and like repeating what you're saying, I probably am not listening to you.
Ooh, that's a good
So
Oh,
rule.
yeah.
yeah, if I have my iPhone in my hand and I'm doing something on that, you can bet your butt that I am not listening to a word you're saying. And I'm just going, uh-huh, 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 but I have
Mhm.
no idea what's going on.
Yep.
And so my girls, like, they'll come up to me and they'll be talking to me. I'm like, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. And then they'll grab my chin and I'm like,
That's
yes,
awesome.
okay, what do
Yeah.
you need?
Physically force you into the moment. That's great.
Just
Yeah, because otherwise I don't actually process that it's happening. I'm
Hmm.
on autopilot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
yeah.
I've gotten really good at giving people answers even though I'm not listening to them and I have no idea what they're talking about. But like
Yeah. I know
somehow
what
I
that
give them
feels
the right
like.
answers.
It's this
Yeah.
weird disassociative feeling. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kids really help us get in the present moment like that. They literally will grab
Yeah.
your face and say, "Look at me."
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
totally will.
Yep.
It really pisses me off most, though, when I do this and I'm actually in a conversation looking at somebody in the eye, and all of a sudden my brain will just tune out randomly on
Yes.
some like squirrel thought. And
Yep.
I'll just be like, "Brr," and like, my
Yes.
husband has gotten really good at figuring out by the look on my face whether I'm doing it or not. So like, it'll be really funny because he'll be talking to me and I'll be, totally listening and in tune with this moment, and then I'll just be like, "Brr," and
Yep.
and like leave the planet for a second, and he'll be like, "Oh, I see you've left us."
That's good.
And he
That's
doesn't even get
amazing.
mad, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, my boyfriend has definitely said to me multiple times, like, I can tell you didn't hear a word I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my husband, I mean, we have both language, cultural communication issues as well as, I'm not paying attention.
Oh, maybe you should
Yeah.
explain to our listeners about uh
Oh, my husband Takayuki is Japanese. And so, yes, I live in Japan. And so we speak Japanglish in my house, which is basically a mix of both. So sometimes we're speaking English and switch into Japanese, and sometimes we're speaking Japanese and switch into English, or it's just a
Mhm.
crazy mesh in my house. And
That's so
so, but
interesting.
yeah, sometimes he'll think I didn't understand him, and he'll get
Mm.
frustrated because it was like
Oh.
it was an easy thing to say, but I'm like, huh? And he says it again, and I'm like, huh? Because I just didn't catch it the second time around. And
Yep.
he's like this thing. I'm like, okay, now I know what you're talking about. I'm like, I didn't know what you were talking about. All it is words coming at me. I don't know.
Yes. It takes a few times sometimes.
Context.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's very
Context. We
I
important.
need
need the
context. Well,
context.
and if you know anything about the Japanese language, once you've stated the topic, it does not get repeated. Okay, so in Japanese,
Oh.
we don't use
Uh-oh.
pronouns, right? Like, there are
Oh.
pronouns in Japanese, but you don't use them once it's been established what you're talking about. Okay, so if you come
Oh.
in on the middle of a conversation, you only get by context of what the information is that you're talking about this thing. Okay, it doesn't get
Oh.
repeated at all. Like, well, but the car, da 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 da, the car, da 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 da. The car never comes up in the conversation except the very beginning. Then it's like,
Oh, wow.
needs to be fixed, needs
Oh
this,
boy.
must have the maintenance. Maintenance is due September, whatever. Like, I'm like, the maintenance on
Oh.
what? And the when and the who, what?
Yeah. Need more information. How
Yeah.
interesting.
So,
Oh,
yes.
that's a little
Oh my gosh.
cultural difference there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first, I'm not listening.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're already
Second-
screwed. Yeah.
Yes. Second, the information comes, but it doesn't have the pronouns. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yep.
So
Yep.
then I have to, hear it a third time for context. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, this. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense now.
Oh, yep. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
I know. I hate it when my
Finally,
brain
we
does
have it.
that. Yep.
I really depend on all those, like the pronouns and like the nouns coming back into the conversation. Because in English, this is something we just do. We're like, oh yeah, Jessica the other day had this, cool set of headphones or whatever. And then as you talk, you keep mentioning she and headphones and maybe even Jessica, so that you can really build, even if you're a little slow on the uptake or you didn't listen to half the conversation, you could pretty well piece it together. That would be so frustrating. Oh my God.
And Jessica and headphones do not enter the conversation once it is stated that is what you're talking about in Japanese.
Oh boy. I don't know if I'd survive that.
Nope.
I don't know how you do it.
I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I ask a lot.
I used to do the thing. I don't know if this is like a masking trait or not, but I used to do the thing where you just pretend like you heard them, like, oh, great.
Yeah.
But then that kind of bites you in the ass later,
It is a masking trait.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I decided to just be more honest with people. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah. I definitely have like that audio processing disorder thing where like, especially if there's any kind of background noise going on, like if I'm in a restaurant or something, lots of people are talking. If one person tries to talk to me, my brain is just kind of like, ugh, it takes everything to have to focus sometimes. Yeah.
And just so that people are clear, do you think that you could explain for people like what the audio processing disorder is? Like what
yeah.
how it works?
Yeah, I haven't been formally diagnosed with this, but just what I've read about it made me feel like, okay, I think that's something I might struggle with. And it's, it usually coincides with ADHD, I think. But it's almost like I don't know, the words just kind of get scrambled. It's like if two people are talking to you at the same time, what that sounds like. You can't hear either one of them. That's kind of what it's like in my brain. Yeah. Like if both your kids are asking you things at the same time, you're just like, just both of you be quiet one at a time. That's what's going on inside my head when I'm hearing multiple sounds.
Okay. So it's the inability to separate out the sounds into two logical conversations.
I think that yeah. I mean, honestly, I should know more about the science of it, but that's what it feels like.
Well, it's probably auditory overload.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly
sensory overload, but audibly. Because what happens is that there's so many side noises coming in and your brain is trying to focus on everything at once, but instead of being able to singularly focus on one. And then because there's just so much input, it's like getting neural feedback.
Yes. Like, yeah, if I'm in a crowd and somebody's cell phone rings, I'm like completely gone from whatever conversation I'm in. I'm just squirrel.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if I might have the same thing then.
But that would make sense though, because if you think of the tone of a cell phone tone is higher than the tone of a voice that somebody's speaking to you. So it's going to cut through all the other noise and it's going to be able to distract you and rip you right out.
Yeah, totally. And then I just completely lose my place with whoever I'm talking with.